Welcome back to the second episode of the Glory of Growth podcast. We are now halfway through January, but I thought there's no better time to say Happy New Year. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the 2025 review, a couple of things that I do, and I hope that you can take some insights from this because I've actually come to see that a lot of people don't do a review of the year. And you can do it in any way that you want. And I'm going to be talking about some of the ways that I find very useful. And then I'm going to be talking about how I set up my 2026 as well, goals, intentions, and a couple of other concepts. So to begin with, I would do a review every single year. Last year, meaning 2024, 2025, I didn't do a review for the year of 2024. I just got lazy and I was just like, this takes so much time. And I told myself I would do it, and I did a couple of exercises here and there, like some meditations and things like this, but I never actually took the time to do a proper review. And this year I actually got very close to doing the same thing, but I did make sure that I did that review, and because it is a bit of a process and it takes some time, but it's always worth it because there is always so much that you're going to learn and recap. And this is the first point that I wanted to make about why it's important to do a review, which is it's very important to reactivate your mind. And this activation works in different ways. Number one, you are reminding yourself of everything that happened in the year because the year comes and it goes. We're so set on getting the next year started, getting things moving. And as brilliant as that is, we forget the things that have happened. We've had wins, we've had failures, we've had highs, and we've had lows. It's very easy to forget the moments that have passed, but when you take a moment at the end of the year to pause and look back at all of the different things that have happened, you look back at your progress, who you were at the start of the year compared to who you are now at the end of the year, you will always notice your progress. You will always see how much has changed. You will also see your failures, the things that didn't go right, but that's all part of the process. So you can take the accumulation of everything that's happened, all of those lessons, you take all of those wins, all of those highs and lows, and you move with them into the next year. I always find it really emotional to go and look back at everything that's happened in the year. I did a review exercise recently where it was like a meditation, there was a visualization. The thing that really blew my mind and I took away from it is that I'm always working on a project. I was working on content and starting my business. It's very easy to measure your success or your achievements in your material accomplishments, in the accolades, the things that are very obvious to the eye. And if that doesn't happen, you sort of assume that things didn't go well this year and you drop everything else. At least that was the case for me, and I know many people will be in that same boat. What I learned from this exercise and doing this review was overall, I felt like it was a good year, 2025, but I didn't feel like it was anything special. I knew it was a difficult year and I had many challenges. It's been one of the most profound years of my entire life as well, but I didn't see it as anything special because all of those accomplishments weren't on the outside. And if I can't see it, if I can't touch it, if I can't smell it, then the brain is wired to just not know that it's real. What I realized is that 2025, I had many, many, many moments of high highs. Not in the typical sense of, oh my God, my life is amazing and I'm on top of the world, but actually quiet moments of highs. Let me give you an example. I had 2 weddings of close cousins and there was lots of partying. There's lots of getting to spend time with family and bonding with everyone. That is something which it just happened. It came and it went and it was a great time and then I forgot about it. I moved on with my life. But looking back, I'm like, that was an incredible time. It was a couple of months, 2 different weddings of just joy and fun and excitement and just eating and drinking and laughing and dancing and singing. It was brilliant. And I had many of those moments throughout the year of different things that happened. Looking back, I see that actually 2025 was a chain of brilliant moments. It was just beautiful. It really was. When you look back and you're able to connect all of those moments that have happened, you realize this chain, this common chain of, oh, there was a moment over here, there was a moment over here, and a moment over here, and those moments scattered but spread throughout the entire year, if you connect them, you realize that actually maybe these moments are the more powerful ones because they are the ones that are more emotionally resonant, because they are the ones where emotions were more intense. Then maybe the year wasn't just okay, it was actually a fantastic year. It was filled with love and laughter and joy. And I think that is a great benefit about doing a review and looking back at everything that's happened, all the different versions that you've been, all the different things that you've done, the different phases that you've evolved through. Because even though they say that as you get older, your concept and relationship with time changes, because as you get older, the more years that pass, each year becomes shorter and shorter and time goes faster and faster. But a year in itself is still a year. It's our perspective of how we associate with that year that changes, because we have more of a reference point as time passes. Every single year, so many things happen. A year is a long time, but at the same time, it's not a long time. But when you break it down into these small memories, these small wins, these small losses, it really feels like a year is like an eternity, because there's so much that's happened. And it's important to look back and remind yourself of everything you've done, because you're the one who did it. You're the one who created the good memories, and you are the one who experienced the memories that weren't as good, and you're the one who dealt with them, processed them, went through them, and you made it through. I'm trying to drop the word or the phrase made it through the year, because there is this underlying, and a lot of people use this, but there is this underlying assumption that it was like a drag, and it was like made it through, yeah, finally did it, got it over and done with. And that is not how, at least not anymore, how I relate to 2025 and time passing in general as well. So that is the first point. Your mind needs reminding. It needs that activation. All of those memories that you had, all of those emotions that you experienced, they are all charged in some way or another, and they remind you of your essence, of who you are, everything you've done and everything that you've been. And if you haven't done any exercise to go to review, I would suggest doing something very simple. If you don't care too much or you can't find time for it, there are a couple of ways you can do this. Go through your camera roll, and I mean literally sit down and go and swipe through every single photo and watch every single video. Even if it's cringe, look at the bad photos, look at the good photos, and go through everything. Another way you can do it is if you have a physical diary or a journal, or you write, maybe you have a digital journal where you write things on your note page. Go through that. Go through your notes page. What things did you write down? What things did you do? Which to-do list did you have? What were the small things that you completely forgot that you did? And you're like, oh my God, yeah, I remember this completely random fucking moment that happened, which was hilarious. Or this weird, awkward situation that I have that was so difficult and random and weird to deal with. That's the second way you can do it. And similarly, you can look through your calendar as well, your work calendar. Which meetings did you have? Where did you travel? What advancements, what progress did you make? What were the weeks that stand out because they were particularly bad? What were the moments which were particularly difficult? And when you look at all of this, it reminds you, and it reactivates all of that in your mind. Even if you don't want to be reminded of the bad stuff, the negative stuff, it's important because you don't want to hide from that. It's not something that you want to run away from, but you want to wear it as a badge of honor, because you've clearly forgotten about it anyway. But being reminded of it, it tells you that it's in the past, so you don't have to carry the burden of that moment, the pain of that anymore. But instead, you wear it as a badge of honor because you made it through that. And I think that's so empowering, especially when you're trying to set the momentum, set the intention, set the goals for the year ahead, and you look back and you say, wow, I did that. It's extremely empowering. Something which I specifically really wanted to talk about, this is a concept which I came up with, an idea concept, I don't know, it's something which I came up with, which I thought was actually really powerful, and I've been telling people about this because I think it's a game changer. And it's this idea of themes, which I started doing for the first time last year. Completely random, it just came into my mind, it popped in, and I was like, let's try this. And essentially, the idea of themes, so to break it down, you're going to have your main goals, which are going to be your tangible, measurable goals, your SMART goals, as they say, right? And that's a separate thing. And then this idea of themes, areas of focus that you want to have in your life, where maybe you don't want to set a tangible fixed goal, but it's something which you want to be keep reminded of, and it's something which you allow to unfold and evolve over time with the intention that you will improve it. This is stuff which is, at least for me, much deeper than the surface level, and I will give you some of the examples that I set for myself last year, why I set those, and I'm going to tell you what I've set for this year as well, to give you a breakdown, and maybe some of these examples will inspire you to create your own themes. So I stuck with 5 themes last year and 5 themes this year. I don't want to do too much because then it just becomes a list, and I don't want to have a list. And 5 things which are not tracked or monitored, measured hard, but there are things which I look at, remind myself of, and try to evolve over the year. So the first one is, these are for 2025 that I set. First one is relationship with time. This one is quite deep for me because as someone who is neurospicy, time management doesn't come easy to anyone who has ADHD or anything similar. It's not something which is easy to do, and it's something which has caused me a lot of pain over the years because I used to be somebody who would try and rush and get things done and always feel like I'm behind, always feel like I'm not doing enough, things are moving too slowly, there's no progress, and blah, 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 and it's fucking jarring, right? And I got to a point where I was like, okay, chill. Like, I felt comfortable enough with myself where I'm like, I'm understanding why I have certain relationship at times based on the wiring of my brain. And last year was quite big, and I set this intention to improve my relationship with time. It's quite an interesting concept. I love talking about this. Just paying attention to how I relate to time. If I feel like I'm in a rush, is that true? Am I really in a rush? Do I really need to speed things up? Why is time such a painful thing for me? Why does it always feel like I'm running out of time? And this runs very deep. That's the first one. Second one was community. So this is actually a good point to mention because when I wrote community, I didn't know what I meant by that. I didn't know if I wanted to be in a community, start a community, be part, like, I didn't know what that looked like or meant. And it's important that these themes, they are more vague, because that is what's going to allow for them to evolve in the way that they need to, rather than being like, this theme needs to look like this, or this needs to happen, because then that's not a theme, that's a goal. And I didn't actually articulate this until I did my review just last week. And I realized for me, community, it wasn't about I wanted to start a community or be part of a community, but actually I wanted to embody an identity of someone who is part of a community, or the values of someone who is community led, is driven by community values and characteristics. Once again, I didn't know what that looked like, but if I was to articulate it now, I would say that it's things like being more compassionate, being more considerate, but not just in a mental way, but actually in a more of a practical way, in a more tangible way. Going out of my way to do things for other people. How can I help people? How can I incorporate a mindset which helps people come together and grow together and learn from each other? I did end up starting a community, but once again, when I wrote this theme down, that wasn't the idea. I started an accountability circle, which I need to revamp and activate again, actually, but that's the second one. Third one, this one is very deep, but it's receiving love. And this one was important for me because I realized I am someone who is very good at doing things for others. And I know that I have people who care about me, people who love me, people would do a lot of things for me, around me, but I didn't know how to actually feel that. And I always felt like if someone is doing something for me, I owe them something back. Love was transactional, not something which I felt like I deserved or was capable of, and that was a huge one. I'll leave this for a separate podcast because this is probably the deepest one, but for anyone who understands or has an idea of the chakra system, it's receiving love is associated with the heart chakra, which just means the energy of receiving love, and love is associated with the heart. It's quite a simple association. Even if you don't understand the chakra system, you don't need to. But essentially, the heart chakra for me, which in essence is learning how to receive love, that's one of the aspects of the heart chakra that blew open for me last year, and that was extremely powerful. And it's probably one of the most profound things that have happened in all of 2025. the fourth thing, this is similar to community, but like I said, for community, there was no definition. This one is a bit more specifically defined, and it's meeting people and building genuine, meaningful new connections. This one required a bit more intentionality because I had to go out of my way to do that, whereas the first three that I've mentioned were more just sort of in my own time, whenever, sort of background things, whereas this one was, okay, meeting new people. Once again, I didn't know what that would look like. I didn't know where or how. It was, once again, I think it's more about the identity of someone who does that rather than the thing itself. So just being more intentional of, okay, what does it take? What sort of person does it take to make new friends, to make new connections? What sort of effort do I have to put in? What sort of mindset do I have to show that I am interested in making new connections? And who do I need to become to do that? Because I can't say I want to make new connections and expect people to come up to me and start a meaningful conversation. I have to initiate it first in order for it to return back to me. So that was quite a powerful one, and I can definitely say that I've met some very cool people who I'm very aligned with this new version of myself. That's a very powerful thing, to have more of those people in your life who are aligned with the direction that you are going in. And I think making content really helps with that, because at the end of the day, that is what it's about. It's about me expressing myself to say, look, this is who I am. And a lot of the times I do get caught up in the comparison and the numbers. I'm like, oh my God, I've been making content for a year and a half and I only have 200 followers or whatever it is. But I'm like, okay, but how many meaningful connections have I made? How many new people have I met through this content? Or how many new connections have I made by showing people this is who I am? And then because of that, people might be warmer towards me, whereas if I just met them once somewhere and they just wouldn't know who I am with that side of me. And the fifth and final theme that I had for last year was slowness. This is, in essence, being more present, but it's a very specific aspect of being present, because it's not just be here now. It is that, but specifically it's this idea of, it's actually, funnily enough, I just connected this in my head now, but essentially it's a part of my relationship with time, because the previous part of me would be like, oh my God, I need to do things quicker, blah, blah. And then slowness is like, slow the fuck down. And this is meta, like just taking life more chill, slowing down, enjoying the moment. But it's also very specific to the moment. Micro moments of slowness is what I was getting at over here, I believe. It's pouring the coffee and seeing the smoke come out as the water's trickling from the kettle into my cup. Is making the sound. The steam is coming out of the cup, and it smells of coffee. And it's waiting at the traffic light and being like, there's a car on my left, there's a car on my right. I'm going home. I'm about to go and have a shower. It's those micro moments of slowness, of just appreciation would be a different aspect of that, but it's just acknowledging. It's just literally slowing down. And sometimes it's actually like physical and visceral slowing down. So literally, like, even when I'm making my coffee, I would, instead of being like, right, grab the coffee, grab the spoon, grab the mug from here, boil the kettle, right, put it in, boom, 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 gone, like, done. Instead of that, it's like opening the drawer slowly, taking a spoon out, taking the spoon of coffee, putting it into the glass, stirring it slowly, taking that first sip and just being like, it's not that bad. And even like walking, something that I started to do is purposefully walk slower than what feels physically comfortable. Actually, I would suggest you try this, okay? Here's what I want you to do. Next time you're on like a leisurely walk, ideally not when you're in a rush or need to get to work, but when you have like time where you don't have to worry about rushing somewhere or being somewhere or doing something, I would suggest you try this. Make yourself walk at a pace which feels uncomfortably slow, and then give yourself permission to relax into that pace of walking. Everyone has a different pace of walking, right? We all have that one fucking friend who is just always in a race. I don't know why they're walking that quick. I used to be that person, I'm not anymore, but you have that one friend who I'm like, bro, we're on a walk. Where are you running to? We're just walking around town. We're just having a chat. Like, why are you in a rush? And they're like, oh yeah, shit, sorry, I just walk at this pace. Point is, everyone has a different pace they walk at. So I would suggest, regardless of what pace you're at, walk at a slow where it's just so slow that it feels uncomfortable to your body, where you're like, it doesn't feel right to be moving my legs this slowly. Walk at a pace which is so slow that people would be like, why is he walking so slow? And allow your body to relax into the pace of that slow walk. It's such a beautiful thing. You can listen to music, you can take in the nature around you, but try it. Give it a go and give it like a good enough time for you to feel the effects of what that slowness does to you and does for your brain. It's really weird actually. It's really interesting because you're still moving and that movement always activates your brain, but you're moving so slowly, it gives your brain time to take in the stuff around you at a level which, even at your normal pace, on a leisurely walk, you might not be able to get to. Give it a go. Let's see how it goes. If you do try it, let me know, because I'm genuinely curious to see how people do this. So those were the 5 themes of 2025. And when I was reviewing over them, there was no tick box. There was no, yep, done that, but it's just the acknowledgement of the evolution of those things and seeing the person that I've become in those specific areas. Yeah, for example, the one that felt like I didn't tap into as much was the slowness one. It was a year where I didn't always feel, I felt present a lot, but I didn't feel grounded. I don't know how to explain that any better, but I felt like my nervous system was always active. It was always like triggered in some way, or it was triggered a lot at least. And I felt like that took away from my ability to be slow in the moment. Such a funny sentence to say out loud, but looking back, this is another fantastic thought that I had, which is, even though I didn't feel like throughout the year I was being slow, because it was a theme and it's something which I thought about a lot throughout the year, I realized that I still tried to slow down. And what that did was that practice against the resistance of my nervous system being activated actually set me up for 2026 for me to actually be slow. Does that make sense? I wasn't able to be slow in 2025. You know, I don't know how else to say that. Like, quote unquote, I wasn't able to be slow and be that present. But because I practiced it throughout the year, but I kept falling off, quote unquote, that was actually the training ground for me to enter 2026 and be like, actually, I feel very present, and I feel like having that on my mind, on the back of my mind, that slowness is, how would you call it, an attribute, a value, I don't know. It's something that I wanted to incorporate in my life. It's actually now led me to be able to do that in 2026. So that's really interesting, because practicing doesn't mean that it's going to be that year, and you're actually setting yourself up for the next year. If I want to be a certain person next year, what do I need to do to set myself for that now, instead of waking up, let's say in 2027, and being like, right, I want to be this person, so let me start being that person now, or let me try to incorporate these things to become that person now. So that's a very interesting thought. Here are the themes for 2026. The first one is joy. This is huge. This one includes playfulness, joy, and it also includes gratitude as well. But I've just labeled it joy, because you don't want to overcomplicate it. You want to keep it as less words as possible. For me, joy is a choice. It's a decision that I get to make. Before, I would outsource joy to be with friends or be in a certain environment for me to feel joy or have joy be activated for me. But I know that's not how it works. I know that's not true. I know that just like any other emotion or state of being, you have to create it within you first. And this year I said joy is number 1 on the top of my list. It's a choice that I have to make. I have to find a way to be joyful, even when I don't want to, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't feel right. If it's something that I've practiced, because it doesn't come naturally to me, practicing it for a year, having in the back of my mind, even when I can't find joy, even saying out loud that I can't find joy implies that I am looking to create that in my life. And that's powerful, because it shows that I'm trying, and I am not just trying, but I'm doing it. I'm looking, like, I'm finding moments to create joy. And especially since it doesn't come naturally to me, it's something which I have to try to do. Me practicing it this year will set up for next year for me to wake up and choose joy as a default, to a point where I don't even need to try to be joyful. It's just something which I take with me. I breathe it. The second one for me is violent delusion. This one is, in simple words, dreaming big, dreaming big. I've chosen the words violent delusion very specifically because that's what it should feel like. It should feel like I'm dreaming so big that it feels violent. You know what I mean? And this one, it's a contrast between who do I need to be in this moment, and then at the same time carrying that violent delusion of this is what my life could look like, even though there is nothing right now which states or shows or demonstrates to me that that could be possible. I have to carry that with me, that violent delusion that certain things which seem far away are actually much closer to me than I think. And I'm obsessed with this idea of choosing to believe that that my dreams, that my goals that I have are much closer than I think. And at the end of the day, your beliefs are whatever your subconscious mind believes to be true. Third one for this year is nourishment. This one I would argue is the most important one, even though I know I said that the joy was most of the important one. It was the most important one. Nourishment, specifically I mean nourishment of the mind, body and soul. And this is because 2025 was not a great year for taking care of my body. And I'm not very proud of that because, you know, they say, I had this thing where it's like, I think it was a Chris Williamson podcast. He said that if you sleep for 8 hours and you sleep at this time and you don't use your phone before this many hours before bed and you have your last meal this many hours before bed, if you didn't know that and you've lived your life having like a shitty sleeping routine, that is ignorance, but you didn't know about it. But once you've learned it, once you know that this is what you have to do to be healthy, to be fit, to have a good state of mind, whatever, and you still decide to not do it, that is completely on you. And that's why I'm not particularly proud of the decisions that I made for specifically my body with my sleep and just the food that I was eating. And it's like, I know all of this information. I've studied this stuff. I've listened to a stupid number of podcasts about this stuff for it to be not ingrained deep into my brain. Yet I still decided not to do it, and that's on me. So nourishment is a big one for me. So like I said, mind, body and soul, meditation, body, food, working out, simple stuff, sleep, right? And specifically food is a big one because I'm so lazy when it comes to eating healthy food, just simple stuff. So I'm changing that this year. The fourth one, this one over here I've written the divine. I don't know how to explain it. This one, I felt some resistance writing this down. It's just surrendering to a higher power, whether you want to call it God, the universe, whatever. I don't like to use certain words. I personally don't like to use the word God. It is essentially the same stuff. You can use whichever association works for you. And the fifth and final one, once again, a lot of these overlap, but the fifth and final one, I would argue this is the most important one. But I think I can make the argument that this one actually is, and I've written down here choices. That is everything. Because all of life is just making choices. And then next to it, I've also written alignment and presence. Presence allows for alignment, which will then be able to play out at a behavioral level, because choices is a very literal thing. And I don't mean choices metaphorically or like mystically, right? I literally mean like, what fucking choices am I making this year? And it's not like, I'm going to work on my business. It's like, no. It's like, okay, you're going to wake up. What is the first thing you're going to do? What choice am I going to make? And everything you do is a choice. Like me moving my, I don't know why I keep doing this, but me moving my hands, me like talking, like blinking, these are all choices that I make. So I mean, at the very micro level, what choices do I make? And that then ripples outwards to all of the other themes that I have, like choosing joy, like choosing to be violently delusional, choosing nourishment, choosing to take care of my body, and choosing to surrender to the divine. All of these are choices. I think choices and presence, once again, they overlap. It's probably like the only two things you need to really focus on to have a successful year and a successful life, however you define success. This is not limited to any specific type of success. I really think there is nothing that comes more important than that. So those are themes. I've rambled on about this, but I just wanted to talk about my themes, and I hope some of this resonates with you. I'm going to quickly touch upon goal setting. I'm not going to go into a whole goal setting tangent, but I set 3 goals for myself this year and last year as well. I learned this from Love Brain, which is cognitive performance training, and they do brilliant stuff. And the neuroscience behind it is that you pick 3 goals. Your brain works on the power of 3, and any more goals than that you set, it's just a distraction, and you're just scattering your mind. You're scattering your energy into too many different places, and it's just not going to work. It doesn't mean you can't have other goals. It doesn't mean you can't have other things, but make these your key focus. That means that no other list of things that I want to do this year, or things I want to buy, places I want to go to, experiences I want to have, I still have a separate list for that. I've made it much shorter than to previous years, but none of that is important. The only important stuff is these 3 goals. And if, let's say, I tick off 1 or 2 of them before the end of the year, then I can replace it with another one of the goals that I have. But the idea is that if I do nothing else but these 3 goals, then that is, for me, a successful year, because I decided that these are the main goals that I'm going to focus on, because this is what is important for me this year. This year, I, for the first time, created a vision board. I've heard about it a lot. I've never created a vision board before. I was supposed to once again do it this last year, but I got lazy, didn't do it. It's my fault. And I created one. I did it very simply, because if I overcomplicate things, I just won't do them. So I made a list of things. That includes some of the goals, some of the themes, that stuff. I sort of used that as inspiration. I went to Pinterest and I just found pictures that resonated with me, and I saved them all onto my gallery, which is brilliant that you can do that now, because I think before they wouldn't let you to just save random images because of like copyright or whatever, but you can just save it directly to your phone. I opened Canva. I found the size for my phone lock screen on Google. It says it's this many pixels by this many pixels. So type in your phone. And I just made a collage of all of those. And then on top of all those pictures, I have about probably 15-ish. And then on top of the photos, I have written some of these keywords that I've mentioned, like joy, like delusion, like choices, nourishment, just keywords that are important for me this year as a reminder. And what I did, because I'm smart, is I created 2 of the same vision boards. So it's the same list of stuff, but the images are different and the colors that I've used are different, just because I know I'm going to keep looking at this and I'm going to forget that it's a background, and I'm going to be like, what's this random fucking wallpaper that I have? And then I'm going to forget about it. So I've made 2 different ones, so the images are different. So when I get bored of this one, eventually I will switch it to the other one, so my brain doesn't become fully desensitized to it. The final thing that I want to mention is, in previous years, at the start of the year, I will enter the year with this sort of hyped energy of, hell yeah, fuck yeah, we're going to do this, it's going to be a fucking great year, and like just all of this excitement. This is one of the biggest shifts that I've had last year, and I think this is one that's genuinely life-changing, is that I entered this year but I didn't feel any of that. Not that I didn't feel excited, I'm very excited, but I just didn't feel that hype buzz that always goes about and lasts about 2 weeks, and I'm like, fuck, like now the year started and I've got to go do all of this shit. And what's different this year for me is that this year it just feels calm. Like I entered this year with this, I had this idea of calm certainty, where it's like, I'm not here like, yeah, I'm going to make this much money and I'm going to do this and I'm going to go here and I'm going to, it's just, I have all of these goals and I have this vision of what I want the year to look like. But the only thing that I'm concerned about is who I need to show up as in the moment to do the things that version of me who's already achieved those things would do. And that in a nutshell is manifestation, but I'm not even using that word because it's like this thing, but it's not a thing. It's just how I'm living my life. Once again, it comes down to choices, right? And this is why choices is on my list, because I have to decide what that version of me looks like. And previous years, like the nervous system would be like, yeah, it gets really excited and you have this like sort of inspiration, but then there's a lack of connection to your vision because you don't actually believe that it's possible for you, and it's just this hyped up thing. And last year I've done a lot to ground my nervous system and learn how to be safe, to feel safer. And this year I woke up on January 1st and literally just felt like, okay, this is done. Like the year is done. I don't know how that makes any sense, but in my head it's like all of the things that I want to do, they're already finished. It's not, I just have to be here now. Like, you know, I don't know. There is something magical about coming into the year and feeling calm rather than overly hyped up, because that is not sustainable what is sustainable is how I feel in the moment, realizing that I'm not going to be able to sustain the entire year with this hyped energy. But in fact, I just want to be who I am and just experience every day and just take it step by step. So yeah, that is everything that I wanted to talk about. I hope something in this resonated. If you've made it this far, like, I would love to know. Send me a message if you found anything valuable, something interesting, maybe something which you also thought about this year. I've had a couple of conversations with some amazing friends of mine about these things. I know that a lot of people are on very similar pages with a lot of this stuff in terms of who they want to become, how the year's starting, and the changes they're making. And there is this, from the conversations that I've had, this calm, convicted energy that I was talking about. This seems to be a common thing I'm noticing. Some people might not be in that place of having that clarity and having that conviction in what they want to do, what they want to create, and that's completely fine as well. If you need a hand with that, if you need help with figuring out what it is that you need, then I would love to jump on a free discovery call with you and help you figure out what it is you want to create, where you are now, and what's keeping you stuck. So just drop me a message. I'm on all social media, wherever you feel more comfortable with, and we can definitely have a chat. Is there anything else I want to mention? But on that note, thank you for listening to the Glory of Growth podcast. And remember, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, there are things out there so good for you that you wouldn't even know to ask for. Lots of love, Jyoti.